Hello and welcome to race 2 of Super League Traithlon's eSports cycling series. We already had race 1 in the men's, and wasn't it a cracker? Decided in the end by 0.1 of a second. And now we welcome the women into the fold, and what a lineup we do have. It's heavily Brit-based. The Brits love their Zwift racing. That's because they can't go outside even when there isn't lockdown because the weather is terrible. And to tell us all about that, I welcome Annie Emerson. Annie, is it a beautiful day in the UK or what?
Well, I've got to tell you, Will, it is a beautiful day, and we've had a couple of beautiful months. But unfortunately, as you said, we've been in lockdown, so our Brits have been on Zwift racing pretty hard and training pretty hard. But we do have glorious sunshine today.
Glorious sunshine, probably a top of 18 degrees, people passing out in the streets, people getting naked in the park. That's what they do over there in the UK. That's winter here. But the women's race coming up, it's going to be a fantastic one, and it takes place, yes, it takes place in Zwift, but it does so in Yorkshire on the UCI Worlds course. What a special course that is.
Oh, it's a great course. I think it's going to be challenging. It's going to be fast. It's definitely going to suit some of the athletes more than others. It's a 2-lapper. You know, there's a fair amount of climb, but I think the interesting point about the course is that they have this good strong climb, 5.5% gradient, about 1.2 kilometers before they make the final turn and come into the last 500 meters of the finish. And I think it's going to be a tough finish, which is obviously going to play into the hands of some of the athletes and not to the others.
Yeah, it is a slightly flatter course than we had in the London 8 reverse with the men, but it's definitely a fast one, and there are some really punchy little climbs, like you said. And in this one, a little bit different again, purely a points race and purely an individual race. So that's going to make things a little bit different. We had a team set up with the men with 8 different teams. Of course, we had a GC and a few different things, but this time it's purely individual, but it's a points race with double points on offer for the start-finish line. How does that change things? How do you attack a race like that with 4 intermediates as well?
Well, I think, Will, to be honest with you, you're going to have to go pretty hard from the gun. That many places are great for breakaways, but as you said, they're playing for points. So they've got to be on their toes the whole way around this course. There'll be no slacking. You don't want to risk getting dropped. And it is all about the points. There are fewer women racing than in the men's race. And I think this is a really interesting, exciting format because, as I said, there's going to be no time for resting or snoozing up. The girls are going to have to work pretty hard the whole way. Double points on the finish line as well. So all to play for right up until the end of what will be around about 28 kilometres in total.
Have you done any Zwift racing before? For people who are new to it, of course, it's an online platform. It's quite famous now. Seen a big uptick over the last 3 or 4 months of lockdown. Where it's all about your watts per kilogram. It's a very specific way of racing. It's very different in some ways to real life, although they do their best to make sure that it is the same. Weight is very, very important. I don't know if you've done any of these races before, but they go really hard out of the gate, so 400-500 watts for the first 3-4 minutes until it kind of settles down. It's really, really tough. And we're going to see that on the athletes' faces because we're going to have some cameras in some pain caves. Have you ever done it before? And for me, it's really hard, but you're an actual athlete.
Well, I was, Will, and in fairness, I haven't ridden the bike for quite a long time, but I did take part in a charity event, 80 kilometres. I hadn't been on the bike for about 10 years and thought 80k on Zwift, no problem. It's the first time I'd been on Zwift. This is going back about 6 weeks ago when we were at the beginning of lockdown. I loved it. I really get it. I'm surprised that some of the athletes don't enjoy it. I know, someone like the British athlete Jodie Stimpson says, it's just not for me. Katie Sophia is the same. Other athletes loved it. I tell you what, if I was racing and back in my heyday, I would have been on Zwift because it's a whole lot of fun. And I tell you what, it's challenging and it's really hard.
It's so hard. It's not fun at all. It's terrible. It makes me cough a lung up. I die, and then I come about 75th overall. Yeah, but then I go back the next day and do it again, and that's what it's all about. Let's have a look at the field in this one. It's been growing every day. We've had updates, more and more athletes joining on. They've obviously seen the racing in the men's and want to get a taste of that one. So let's have a little bit of a look through. I'll just throw a few names at you and we'll go through them. Jennifer Arnold is the first of the Brazilians. There's quite a few Brazilians, and we had a big team in the men's from Brazil as well. 27-year-old, a few World Cups. Top 20s. She is part of the Brazilian contingent. And then you go, and I've got them in alphabetical order here, The second one, Lucy Charles-Barclay, and she has got quite the resume. If people don't know her, she's going to be very, very strong.
Oh, Lucy Charles. I mean, what a name to have on the start list. Obviously she is a long course athlete, comes from an incredibly strong swim background. That's not going to help her here. But we've watched her race at the Ironman World Championships in Kona, runner-up 3 times. Everyone talks about what she pushes on the bike. She's a phenomenally strong athlete. What will be interesting to see, though, very different racing over this hard, really intense 28 kilometres compared to the distances that Lucy normally races over.
Yeah, that's right. She's certainly very, very good over 180 kilometres. This one very different indeed, but she is a regular on Zwift. We've seen that plenty of times in the Zwift Pro Tri Series. We go further down, another Brazilian and a Super League athlete as well, Luisa Baptista, the 26-year-old. She's a Pan American Games winner. You might remember her, Annie, from running with no shoes on in Jersey. That was the famous moment. We go further down, Sophie Coldwell. Well, we know her pedigree on Zwift. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, I love watching Sophie. I've had a few chats with her. I think she's found lockdown, a bit tough. And I think that is the brilliant thing about what SLT are doing right now. They're giving the athletes some motivation, to get out there and train hard for these races. And for Sophie, this has been quite important. I think she suffered a little bit over the last 5 weeks. But you know what? We've seen her racing on Zwift. That girl can push some serious wattage, and on the road, I love to watch her race. So I think we can expect to see Sophie feature in quite a lot of the race.
Yeah, very, very strong. She upstaged a few in the Zwift Classics. Weren't expecting a triathlete to do so well with those regular Zwift races, and she certainly did that. The 25-year-old, she's just fostered, I think, a whole bunch of chickens and as those to a dog. So I don't know if she's considering she's now got 18 to 20 children. She'll have had as much time on Zwift, but we'll hope that she's as strong as ever. Lucy Hall's the next one. She's a regular in Super League as well. We know that she's called the Mermaid. Again, that's not going to help her at all. Plenty of strong swimmers in here, but she's a swim biker.
She is. I like to watch Lucy race. Again, very strong cyclist. She doesn't like, we've seen her race at SLT before. She doesn't like the really technical courses. So I think Zwift, really suits her. She'll have her head down. She'll be pushing a big gear. Mark Bucko, her fiance, Bucko was racing in the men's race last week. Really strong athlete. And I think he will have taught her quite a lot about how to be tactical in these races and how to get the best out of them. But again, I expect to see Lucy up there as well with the Brits.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty. I wonder if they're going to be working together in this an individual race, considering there's points on the line and the drafting, up to 30%. If you can sit in there and scoop the points as a group, certainly that'll go a long way to getting you guys getting the win for Great Britain. But it is an individual one. Let's keep going. Vanessa De La Torre, we've seen her, the Mexican, in Super League Traithlon before. Megan Brown from Australia, she's had a handful of WTS race starts. Maya Kingma is one that I know that you want to pull out from the Netherlands.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen her racing Super League, but I have watched her race over the last few years. She's only 25, and what she's absolutely amazing at is the swim bike combination. I've seen her stick with the likes of Flora Duffy without any problems at all. And whilst we haven't seen a lot of her results or what she's been doing on Zwift, I'd be quite surprised if we don't see her well in the mix as well. Only 25 years of age, but as I said, really, really strong cyclist.
All right, 5 or 6 minutes to go before we get this one underway, the first race of the women's. If you're just joining us, it'll be in the Harrogate course, the Yorkshire UCI 2019 Worlds course, 2 laps, 28 kilometres. And as we continue going through the start list, the name that sticks out there, Helen Jenkins, 2-time ITU world champ, 3-time Olympian, probably leading the way in terms of that big surge in British triathlon in the women's over the last 15 years or so.
Oh, I think, all the girls are really excited to see Helen race. I think she's a really liked athlete, very, very low key. She is very doesn't sort of big herself up, not nearly as much as she should do. She's got a massive engine. I tell you what, all the athletes used to talk about her numbers on the bike and in testing, when she was very much involved in the British team, 3 times Olympian, as you said, well. She wouldn't be putting herself on the start line, I don't think, if she didn't think that she had a good chance of being in in the mix. But let's not forget, Helen has had 2 children over the last 3 years. She's also had pretty major back surgery. But having spoken to her about this racing, she's like, I'm motivated. I want to get out there and push hard. She's an athlete that, gets in that sort of pain cave and just puts her head down and races hard, but also very tactical and a very smart racing. So it's going to be interesting to see what Helen Jenkins can do.
It is quite amazing when people come back from having a child and can pick up somewhat where they left off. I saw Rad Karlefeld do that last year in Beijing. She turned up with her, I want to say, 6-month-old and raced like she hadn't even had a child. It was quite incredible to watch, and she'll be part of this field as well.
Well, she certainly will be, yeah. She mentioned there, I think she raced 11 weeks after having a baby. I've had 2. I cannot imagine how she got herself into the shape to be able to race 11 weeks later, but a very strong athlete, married to, of course, the famous Australian athlete, Brad, who is there supporting her now, still racing. And I think, she's had a child, she's back in racing mode. And I think, as you said, Will, she will feature. Not quite sure, where her levels are of fitness at the moment, but with the experience that she has, I do also think that she's going to be in the mix.
Absolutely. I had a kid 4.5 years ago, and I still haven't recovered physically from that. It's been really hard. Dominika Jamnicki from Canada, Beatrice Neres from Brazil. We're running out of time, so I'll run through them. Ilaria Zane, a special mention for her. She's going to be very strong. She's a very light athlete. She was fantastic. Our highest finisher in the Zwift Classics in the Trofeo Bologna, but in that course there was some very, very steep climbs. So as a light athlete, she had somewhat of an advantage, or she was certainly better placed. This doesn't have that as much. Pamela Oliveira from Brazil, she's an Olympian as well. She's won a ton of 70.3s and an Ironman. She got a bronze in the Pan American Games. And also Emma Pallant, who we talked to just the other day, from South Africa. She'll be racing. Just a quick thought on her, and then if you can give me a prediction for your top 3 as well.
Emma Pallant loves this style of racing. Absolutely loves it. I've trained with her. I've known her for years. That girl knows how to put herself into deep, dark places when it comes to this kind of racing. And that's what you've got to do. You can't back off. She's going to love this course. And I think it's going to really, the profile of it is going to really suit her. So I think we're going to be looking at Emma. Not sure what Helen's going to do, because as I've said, she's had a bit of time out. Sophie Coldwell's going to be in the mix. Maya Kingma as well. So I think we're kind of looking at those top 3. But, it's difficult to leave anyone out. It's Lucy Hall as well. She'll be strong too. So a lot to play for, and I can't really call it, Will, to be honest, but I'm going to throw Emma out there as my top pick.
All right, you just picked all of the Brits, so congratulations. That's
I did say
biased.
Maya Kingma. I did say the Dutch athlete Maya Kingma. Okay, I'm calling her to the top 3.
All right, you just did that in the interest of seeming less biased. I'm going to go with Ilaria Zane. I like Ilaria Zane. I like her attitude. I like how well she did against the Zwift Classics riders. She's going to have some very stiff competition. And Sophie Coldwell as well. She was absolutely fantastic. We've run out of time right now, though. Before we go, though, what I want to do quickly is run you through the sprint. So there's 4 intermediates, each of them worth 5 points for the winner, down to 4, 3, 2, and 1. The first one comes a very, very generous 8.9 kilometres in. That's the first Yorkshire King of the Mountain. That's about let's have a look. It's a reasonably long 8.9, so 60 kilometres ascent in 1.2 kilometres. So it's a reasonably short climb, but very, very punchy, that one, and it gets up to quite a decent gradient. Comes with a nice descent afterwards. That one comes at 8.9 kilometres. Then 11.1, there's a sprint section in Harrogate. And then on the second lap, at 22.9 kilometres, the second time up the Yorkshire King of the Mountain. And then at 25.1, we sprint again. And then the finish will be worth double points. So 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. We'll keep you updated throughout the race as to how the points stand, because that is all that matters. Doesn't matter first across the line. Collect the most points. You are the winner. And now it is time for race 1 of the women's from the Harrogate course. It's Zwift racing in the Super League eSports Cycling Series. Another beautiful day on Ripon Road in Harrogate as we get started for this race. We've got 15 of the best women in the world, all fantastic triathletes. But for today and across the next couple of races across June, it's all about the power and the wattage on the bike. We're going to take on this UCI course in Harrogate. Annie, this is going to be a fantastic race. We've got such a great pen of athletes, and this is a really tough, punchy little course. I had a ride of it yesterday just to remind myself exactly how it's going to be, and there are some tough climbs.
Oh, Will, there really are. It's a great course. I wish I'd had a go on it too, but I've had a good look at the profile. What I'm picking out is I think it's possibly going to play into the hands of the taller athletes, the likes of Lucy Charles or Emma Pallant, people like that, because the climbs are short and sweet.
Yeah, they're off, and as we mentioned in the pre-show, some really high wattages needing to be put out early on, and you can see already that they've really got some speed up on this one. It's well, compared to what I was doing, as you can see there, like 6 watts a kilo. I know Lucy Charles-Barclay was pushing 500 watts plus in her warm-up. There's Sophie Coldwell in her little pain cave at home. You can see her partner there on the edge of screen there briefly. He does all of the domestic duties, if that's what you call them, in Zwift, and it's always a really tough one. There's Emma Pallant as well, with her partner Jared looking on, and it looks like she's got a disco going on there. So everyone's pain cave setup's a little different. Vanessa De La Torre from Mexico leading the way at the moment alongside Sophie Coldwell. It's going to be a really interesting one to see how this plays out, and this bit here, as they turn onto Otley Road, this is called Harlow Hill, and it's 1.4 kilometres at about a 4% average. So it really, for those who haven't warmed up, Annie, properly, it's a pretty tough start to this race.
It is tough. I mean, the athletes hopefully will have been well prepared. They'll have been warming up for the last 30 minutes or so, doing some good sprints. But it is tough, and it's long and it's wide, and the climb is too. So there's few opportunities for a breakaway here, that's for sure. One thing's for sure, it's the likes of Emma Pallant and Lucy Charles. Lucy Hall is up there as well. Maya Kingma from the Netherlands, who we talked about. They're going to be taking this out pretty hard and trying to weed out the slightly weaker cyclists in the pack.
Yeah, there's certainly an opportunity to do that on this course. We didn't see so much in the London 8 reverse because there wasn't as many areas where you could sprint away or try and create a gap. We know how hard it is in Zwift racing to cross a gap once you get dropped. It was really that one trip up Fox Hill last time that sorted it out, end up with a group of 17 that stayed together until the end, and then we had somewhat of a bunch sprint. There are more areas here with some really tough little climbs, little 700 or 600 metre kickers around the course that for a well-timed attack could really see a few athletes get dropped. And those who are going to do well today will be those who have had a look at this course and ridden around it and know exactly tactically where to go. So at the moment, 1.4 kilometres into this one, of course, we're to tick over 28 kilometres for the race, and Emma Pallant is off the front. We talked to her the other day. You can see the full interview on the Super League Traithlon on Instagram TV, on Facebook as well. She has been training very hard over there in South Africa and been very much enjoying her training and that move over there, and has found her feet somewhat. And she was really excited about this one.
Oh, Emma was so excited. I mean, what I love about her is if it's not hurting, she's not enjoying it. And we can see her there now in the Super League Triathlon green jersey. She's pushing this pace out early. You know, I think what Emma wants to do is just really try and stamp her mark here. She's had a few battles previously on the Tri-Pro Swift racing with Lucy Charles. So I think she's going to want to say, look, I'm here and I'm ready to race.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of that interview, I think we've got a clip lined up talking to Emma when Annie and I spoke to her over in South Africa just a couple of days ago.
It took a little while. Like, I literally just joined Zwift when we were locked down in South Africa. We couldn't go out at all. So yeah, we were lucky enough to get it going just before lockdown. And I really think it is one of those platforms, like, to be better at it, you've got to race it. Like, it is kind of a skill in its own. And I've really enjoyed it. Like, it really hurts. It's proper kind of hard racing, but yeah, I've had loads of fun so far.
Yeah, it really hurts. That's the part I took out of that, and I can at least, I get that. I get how much it hurts, and I'm glad to see that real proper athletes hurt as much as I do as the group heads up towards the top of this and down the hill, and you can see the pace pick up a fair bit. It's really interesting. I'm looking at the heart rates at the moment. Athletes like Jennifer Arnold and Emma Pallant have heart rates around the 150 mark, but there's some heart rates. Maya Kingma 180, Helen Jenkins 185, Ilaria Zane 185. It's interesting to see how people, the wide range, I guess, we all know they're going incredibly hard and they're pushing sort of 3, 4, 5 watts a kilo, how much difference their heart rates are.
Yeah, I mean, that will vary from athlete to athlete. And I think when you look at Maya Kingma, she's a very slight, small athlete. So her heart rate is going to go a bit higher. And I think there is that Ilaria Zane there we have in our picture, the Italian athlete who loves Zwift racing. We've seen her previously in some of the Zwift Classic racing. She raced really well in the Trofeo Bologna race, where she finished first out of all the Super League triathlete women that were racing that day.
Yeah, that's true. She's only 46 or 47 kilos, Ilaria Zane. So if there is any kind of incline or we'll see her feature quite heavily, and that's why she was so good on the Trofeo Bologna, because there was quite a long 2 trips up a very, very steep, very long hill. So weight is punished in this format on Zwift far more than it is in real life, because what's a kilo is what it's all about. As Emma Pallant is off the front, and there is Zane in the Super League green. How good are those jerseys? We've got made up by Zwift specifically for this. Zwift have really come to the party to support Super League and the other way around. As off the front, we have Luisa Baptista pushing out nearly 10 watts a kilo there. Just a little tester of the legs, though. She's not going to get away with something like that as Lucy Charles-Barclay crosses over towards her, but just testing the field a little bit.
But I think you've got to race smart too here, Will. It's good to have a bit of a dig early on, but when we look back to the men's race last weekend, Leo Bergere, who finished second, didn't feature at all in any of the race. We know this race, of course, is different because it's all about points. But I think the athletes in the early stages, before we hit the King of the Mountain and the sprint stages, the intermediates, they've really got to just conserve a little bit of energy.
Yeah, it's good to see them though racing aggressively, just testing out the field a little bit. Sometimes in the women's racing, we've seen in the Zwift Classics at least, they tend to want to stay in the bunch and conserve, because you can save 30 to 35% energy-wise if you are sitting there in the pack. But it's good to see just the pace being pushed a little bit by Luisa Baptista, the Brazilian. She's been around Super League Traps for a while. You might remember her running with no shoes in Jersey last year, which seems like such a long time ago now. Won the Pan American Games, the 26-year-old. Now we're with Sophie Coldwell. As we see, who is that there? I think that is Luisa Baptista, who will be racing in Brazil at the moment. Everyone's still locked down at home, and she looks reasonably comfortable. She's not up in the saddle. We've seen a few people already up, but the group 4.7 kilometres in, just a tick under 8 minutes into this one, and enjoying the downhill. Now, if you're going at a decent speed, which they all are, and it's over 3% downhill, they can actually get into a super tuck position, which means they can stop pedaling altogether. But I don't think anyone has taken that option. If they had have, they would have be able to head down there. We can see someone there in the super tuck at the front. A few people now know that little trick. They'll just stay with the group and they don't have to pedal at all. It's a little Zwift trick that I've been employing as much as possible.
I think it's about the one place on this course that you can get a little bit of a breather, because there's not too many places where you're going to get a breather. But on this downhill here, we can see all the athletes bunched together. The ones behind will be getting a little bit of a brace. We can see Sophie Coldwell standing out there. Great to see Helen Jenkins, first time racing on Zwift, well up there as well in the top positions.
Usually, first time racing on Zwift, you get left in the gates because you don't realise exactly how hard you have to push when you're in the pen, just in those 10 or so seconds before the race begins, and then the first 3 or 4 minutes. But an athlete of Helen Jenkins' resume, she know how to make sure she's got everything dialed in perfectly for any race, no matter where she is, virtually or otherwise. As we follow Sophie Coldwell once again. At the moment, Emma Pallant, Maya Kingma, Lucy Charles-Barclay we haven't talked about. She'll be in that absolutely magnificent pain cave that you can see a tour around on YouTube. Absolutely great setup, and it's been really good to see the setups of all the different athletes. It's some people are in the cellar under their house, some people are in the spare room, some people are in a hotel room because they can't get good enough Wi-Fi. It really humanises our athletes who you usually just see out there on the course with everything dialed in and perfect, that they just happen to be like in the spare room trying not to wake up the kids.
Exactly.
Emma Pallant, Sophie Coldwell, Louisa Baptista, Jennifer Arnold, Lucy Hall, your top 5 at the moment, but it is all very much bunched up as we head towards the first of the King of the Mountain intermediates. Now, just to update you once again, this is a points race, which means there are points on offer at the 4 intermediates and then double points at the finishing line, which is a 600-metre uphill sprint, which will really test these athletes, and that's hopefully what it'll come down to. The first King of the Mountain section is the Yorkshire King of the Mountain, and that will crest at 8.9 kilometres. You can see we're 6.7 kilometres in. The hill starts at 7.7, so it's a 1.2 kilometre gradient, about 6% average, and we'll see who has the power in the legs. 5 points for the winner of that intermediate section, 4, 3, 2 and 1, and we'll update you, of course, on the points as we go on throughout this 28 kilometre race. But it's been, well, with a couple of little testers, it's been pretty sedate opening to this one, and I only say that in terms of the fact that everyone is still together. We haven't really lost anyone as yet, but that could change in just a second. And Maya Kingma has been someone who Annie has certainly been pulling out as someone who could be a serious contender in this one.
Well, yeah, but I'll have to point out that Maya only signed up on Zwift on Friday, but I did speak to her today. She said she was really excited to have this opportunity to come and race. And we can see her there now leading the way down. I expect to see her feature, but you know how much she's been able to teach herself over the last few days. She's never raced on Zwift, but on the World Triathlon Series, this girl can seriously ride, and I've seen her in breakaways with the likes of Flora Duffy, who hasn't been able to drop her. So really exciting to see my top pick, who I mentioned earlier on in the start of the programme, Maya Kingma from the Netherlands, a 25-year-old racing really well at the moment.
Lucy Charles-Barclay and Maya Kingma, as you mentioned, putting out big wattage, 9 and 10 watts a kilo to get the early advantage in this climb. We're at 8.1 kilometres, so 800 metres until the first intermediate and the first points are decided. And it's Lucy Charles-Barclay, the Red Bull athlete, 3 times second place in Kona at the Ironman World Championships the last 3 years, won the Challenge Roth last year as well. A regular on Zwift though, so she's not going to be caught out by these short, sharp racing compared to what she's usually used to. She's pushing out 8 watts a kilo right now to really try and press her advantage, and she's pushed out to about 1.3 seconds. It says 0.9 there, but we've got updated times. And it's Lucy Charles-Barclay from Maya Kingma, Emma Pallant, Sophie Coldwell and Louisa Baptista. So she really pushed their early doors, Lucy Charles-Barclay, just to make sure that she was in pole position. She was going to control this climb, and now she's just got to hang on, and she's pushing huge numbers.
Yeah, she really is. I think there's no surprise for people watching this to see Lucy way up there. You know, she's kept herself in great form throughout lockdown, racing really well on Zwift, and I think she wants to take control of this race early on, and I think the other athletes are going to have to work really hard if they're going to try and get the better of her.
200 metres to go in our first King of the Mountain section, and Lucy Charles-Barclay is well in control. She's now 5.3 seconds clear of Emma Pallant from Maya Kingma, Sophie Coldwell at 8.9 seconds with Louisa Baptista, and they look like at the moment they're going to take out those points. And there is Sophie Coldwell up in the saddle, getting some words of encouragement as she tries to take some points in this one, and she's been fantastic in the Zwift Classics. But she's not going to beat Lucy Charles-Barclay, who takes 5 points in the first intermediate from Maya Kingma. Just from Emma Pallant. No, maybe it was Emma Pallant who got the points. We'll get the update in just a second. Lucy Hall, and I think Louisa Baptista is half a second ahead of Sophie Coldwell. But we'll update you on our points. But at the moment, courtesy of a fantastic 800-metre push up the hill, Lucy Charles-Barclay, whose heart rate is now top 180, will take the 5 points. There you go. Queen of the Mountain points it in by Kingma in 4th. Emma Pallant takes 3 points. Lucy Hall takes 2 points. And Louisa Baptista. So 3 Brits in the Queen of the Mountain take the points. And right now, just have a listen to this little clip as we head down the hill with Lucy Charles-Barclay on how you can learn a little bit more about Super League Triathlon. There you go. So easy. Join. Head to superleaguetriathlon.com, check out the newsletter, and keep up to date with all the ever-changing world of Super League Triathlon as we negotiate this coronavirus 2020 world, bring you racing wherever we can, and hopefully very, very soon get back to racing in real life. But right now, it's Lucy Charles-Barclay who has eased off the gas after that 800-metre Queen of the Mountain sprint take. And she'll just welcome back into a little pack here Emma Pallant and Maya Kingma, who the 3 of them will, maybe they'll look to maintain a little gap on the chasing pack. At the moment, it's about 3 or 4 seconds.
Well, it's interesting to see what is going on here. We're seeing now that some of the athletes have really been dropped out the back. Helen Jenkins, 34 seconds down now. And I'm wondering if Emma Pallant, Kingma and Lucy Charles. There's Baptista up there as well. Lucy Hall isn't far behind, neither is Sophie Coldwell, but I'm just wondering if these guys are going to get together and just push on a little bit. But Lucy Charles at the moment just looking incredibly strong. No surprise that she sat back up. She'll be waiting for the next sprint that will be with us in around about 500 metres time.
Yeah, it comes on really quickly at 11.1 kilometres. It's a sprint section, so if you burnt all of your matches in that Queen of the Mountain to try and take the points, this one sneaks up on you incredibly quickly. And it's a really short, sharp sprint. It's a little downhill too, the Harrogate sprint. So you've really got to put down big wattage if you're going to get those numbers up. At the moment, Lucy Charles-Barclay was running about 50 kilometres an hour down this hill. And there is the start of the sprint section as Pallant, Baptista, Charles-Barclay goes back into the orange numbers as well with an 8.6. And again, she's going to take this one. She's up in the saddle and she's left. Well, she's got the jump on them somewhat. Louisa Baptista's pushing 8 watts a kilo to try and stay with her. But Lucy Charles-Barclay will probably take the double here, and she's going to do that. So she has taken a maximum 10 points from the first 2 sprints, and she just knew what was happening just a little bit before everybody else and left Baptista, Pallant, Hall and Coldwell behind. And along with Kingma, the 6 of them are well ahead of everybody else. Now about 16, 17 seconds. So we could see just a race in 6 from now on, but at the front, Lucy Charles-Barclay takes it again from Baptista, Pallant, Hall and Coldwell, and we'll get an update overall in just a second as to the overall points. But before we do that, let's head to another quick clip.
Welcome aboard, everyone. Super League Direct.
Easy, look at that. She got the skills.
It's on.
That's a good combo.
Yeah.
There you go. 10 points for Lucy Charles-Barclay. Emma Pallant on 6, Louisa Baptista 5, Lucy Hall 4 and Maya Kingma 4. And it is a race in 6 at the moment. Jennifer Arnold, the best of the rest. She's all by herself, the Brazilian, pushing 5 watts a kilo just to try and stay somewhere in the race. But she's 16 seconds adrift. And no one else really is going to be figuring, at least in the next part of this race, as they complete the first of 2 laps. But Lucy Charles-Barclay has really taken a jump on the rest of the competition, Annie.
Yeah, and I think what she's done, Lucy's just so smart. Even at just 26 years of age, she has so much experience, and on Zwift too. She's getting it right. She's learned a lot about this course. She's done her homework, and I think she caught the others snoozing a little bit. They weren't expecting the sprint to come up so quickly, and she kind of took it well in her stride, but pushing 10 watts per kilo. I mean, she's in phenomenal shape. I'm not sure. I can't see anyone beating her here this evening. Well, I really can't.
Yeah, she's really laid down a marker, Lucy Charles-Barclay, and you're right. It comes up really quickly on you when you're trying to recover from that Queen of the Mountain. It really comes up about 500 metres, and it's a downhill 500 that really sneaks up on you. Suddenly that green sprint line is there as they head back across the start-finish line once again in just a second. But we got a little taster there just before of exactly how steep that run into the finish is. There's about 600 metres there once you turn onto Ripon Road that really stings as they go. Well, they're nearly at the start-finishing line now, but this is a really tough little section that we're going to have double points for when we arrive there. And these athletes, and there is Emma Pallant in her disco pain cave, these athletes are going to know they're going to need all of those 10 points if they're going to catch Lucy Charles-Barclay, who's really already streaked ahead in the rave cave there, enjoying it. Take me back to my 20s, yeah. That does.
I feel a bit claustrophobic in there, but I know that Emma spent a lot of time designing her pain cave, and that's absolutely where she's at her happiest. But, looking at Lucy Charles, she goes hard. We're looking at her heart rate, looking at what she's pushing. It's not like she's cruising. She's just giving everything she's got and really smart racing. We'll mention there to the young Dutch athlete, Maya Kingman. First time, Will, racing on Zwift. This is a pretty impressive performance because all the athletes say, we look back at the men's racing, Christian Blumenfeld, has failed miserably so far, I think, by his own admission, because you need to learn. But it looks like Maya Kingma, worthwhile signing up for that Zwift account back on Friday and her first time racing here on the Super League Triathlon eSport racing. Great to see the young athlete up there.
I want to hope Christian Blumenfeld isn't watching this race. You just said he failed miserably, and he will never talk to you again.
But I think by his own admission, he tried to sort of say, listen, let's wait till we get back on the road and I'll show you what I'm made of. But I think he has said, I haven't quite got this yet. And you look at Maya, first time racing, and I'm just blown away. Let's mention also Lucy Hall. She's 28 seconds down. I want to mention Helen Jenkins as well. 3 times Olympian, 2 times world champion. She did say to me she's never raced before. She's missed a little bit of training, but 56 seconds down, no shame there when you've got the likes of Lucy Charles-Barclay and Emma Pallant, Sophie Coldwell, who are all seasoned pro on Zwift racing.
Yeah, one that does stand out to me, Radka Karlefelt, who is at the moment she's a minute 16 down, and Ilaria Zane, who was my tip to really feature in this one, is at 2 minutes 30 down, ahead of Vanessa Della Torre, who's 5 minutes and 16 seconds down. So for those who aren't, there is Ilaria Zane, who's having a pretty long day at the office. She was very, very strong in the Trofeo Bologna, as we said, but it's a very different course to that, and it's really favouring those athletes that can put down just huge watts in little sprints, as opposed to those Queen of the Mountain sections, and we're seeing the stronger athletes who've got more power in the legs as opposed to the lighter athletes who are featuring at the pointy end of this one. Baptista, Charles-Barclay, Pallant, Coldwell, Hall and Kingma, all within 2 seconds of each other. Jennifer Arnold, we should say, was 16 seconds back. She's now 7.6 seconds back, so she's really been putting in the big ones, the 27-year-old from Brazil. From Helen Jenkins, still 57 seconds adrift. From Beatrice Neres of Brazil and Dominika Jamnicki of Canada. They are your top 10. Outside of that, Karlefelt in 11th, Megan Brown of Australia in 12th, so it's early in the morning for her there on the Gold Coast. Dominika Jamnicki, Ilaria Zane, Vanessa Della Torre. But it's all about these 6 athletes at the front. And 15 kilometres in, we're past the halfway mark. It's hard to go against Lucy Charles-Barclay, but when you've got such a fantastic field around her, she's only a couple of points, even though she looked like she's dominated this one, she's only a couple of points ahead. And Luisa Baptista right now nearly 3 seconds ahead as they head up Harlow Hill for the second time. There she is. So it's still very much anyone's game.
Well, just about, Will, but I think that Lucy's going to be the one to beat. Certainly very impressed with Luisa Baptista, the 25-year-old, ranked 17th on the Super League Triathlon series. Really good riding from her, only 25 years of age. And good to see her sort of trying to give it a little bit to Lucy Charles. Lucy Charles, 3 seconds back. I wouldn't take too much notice of that. I think Luisa is just having a little bit of a dig to see what the other girls are going to do. But I don't think it'll be long before they're all back together again.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that this is necessarily a very good option from Louisa. I mean, Lucy is very slowly coming up to her, but she's certainly putting in the big ones here to take about a 3-second gap out. But there's no points or anything available on this one. We know how hard it is to. It's definitely hard to cross over if you get dropped, but it's also hard to make a break stick if you're just on your own. So whether or not that's, well, she's feeling good and she thinks that she can stay away, and she's still 3 seconds from Charles-Barclay, who's a further nearly a second ahead now as she tries to cross over. Whether or not that's a smart move from Baptista, it will remain to be seen. But it's very, very hard to make it stick. Although you can see across those 6 athletes now, there's a nearly 5-second window across them. So it has strung the field out. Let's see if Baptista can make it stick on this one, as they all just sit in a group of 5 of them now, or 4 of them there, to track her down on this downhill, which is quite steep, about 7% coming up.
Yeah, but perhaps a little bit of inexperience there from Baptista, I would say, because burning that energy up for no good reason is pretty pointless, as we can see Lucy Charles now and Emma Pallant, riding her down. They're just 1 second behind. So, pushing those big watts all of a sudden, you're going to burn the energy. So that's not really smart racing from the Brazilian.
Speaking of the Brazilians, Jennifer Arnold is now within 7 seconds, and the pace at the front has not dropped off. You can see Helen Jenkins is now a minute 14 back, and it's really strung out there. Vanessa De La Torre now nearly 6 minutes back at the back of the field, with Ilaria Zane 3:19 back. Jennifer Arnold at 7 seconds has been doing this all by herself, so there's been no draft whatsoever. She's been on her own the entire time. She's now faded out to 9 seconds back, but she hasn't got any of the benefits of the draft and has just been out there doing a lonely old time trial, trying to get onto the back of this one. But at the moment, she's just not quite able to do it, and this group at the front has come together. There's Emma Pallant in the Super League green, Lucy Hall in the red there, and in the blue, I think that's Maya Kingma. Obviously they're all there, and in that lovely cap, the cycling cap, is Lucy Charles-Barclay in the yellow. So still, we've got a fantastic group of 6. We knew that it would split up a little bit more in this one because of these little short, sharp kicker sections. We've really seen people fall off the back, and Hella Jenkins and Carla Ilaria Zane are the big names that have fallen so far.
Yeah, but I think, it's a bit of it's a leg grinder, this one. We talked about the young Brazilian girl, the Italian girl, Ilaria Zane, who raced so well in Bologna, but they were short, sharp, really tough climbs. These long grinding climbs are really going to play into the hands of the athletes of what I would say are real strength athletes, like Emma Pallant and Lucy Charles-Barclay, of course. Lucy Hall up there as well. She's sitting in there nice and quietly, riding really well. Maya Kingma, for me, is having the race of her life. I keep mentioning her, but the first time she's racing on Zwift. So really good to see the young Dutch athlete up there. Helen Jenkins down now, 1:30 seconds down. And then, of course, we have the Brazilian athlete followed by Lucy Charles, and she makes up that top 6.
Yeah, 4 Brits, and we've got a Brazilian and a Dutch woman in our group of 6 as we head to now under 10 kilometres to go. As I said, we spoke to Emma Pallant just the other day and got her thoughts on some of her rivals who she's now riding in a bunch with.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been racing quite a bit against Sophie Coldwell, and I know she, especially on the sprint finishes, she's won like some of the pro triathlon races on Zwift. So definitely kind of going to try and keep with her. And Lucy Hall, I raced her last year in the Lanzarote 70.3 Ironman. I biked with her, and so yeah, I know she's super strong kind of on the bike and stuff, so definitely some good names in there.
Sophie Coldwell in the lead there, Emma Pallant, as we just heard from. Lucy Charles-Barclay moving to the front now with 9.3 kilometres to go. It's not going to be long until we arrive at the Yorkshire King of the Mountain with 5 points on the line once again. That'll be at about 21, I can't do my maths, 21 point something kilometres.
22.9.
22.9.
Does that sound about right?
For the that's right, for the end. It's 1.2 kilometres back from that, so 21.7. 21.7. It's very early in the morning here for me. All right, into the Super Tuck they go. This group of 6. It looks like it's going to stay that way. Jennifer Arnold still trying to hang on at 6.5 seconds. There is Sophie Coldwell, takes a little bit of a look down the barrel of the camera, but she's very comfortable there at home in the pain cave. She's been spending a lot of time there as the UK has been dealing with lockdown in its own special way. And alongside her, well, Lucy Hall again. We've got to mention Lucy Hall. She's been around for such a long time. She's switched to 70.3 racing in 2019 or what there was of the season. After what was been a very, very successful Olympic distance career, including being part of Team GB all the way back in 2012. But I haven't heard much from her in Super League sense for a while. We know she's a great swimmer. Obviously, she's showing us she's got that power on the bike still. And she's been spending a fair bit of time in her pain cave too. Just bought a treadmill to stick in there as well, because you guys can't get out too much. We're okay here in Australia to get out and about, but not sure where you guys are up to. But it's always a beautiful day on Zwift, and there's no social distancing trouble on Zwift.
Not at all. We are back out now on the road, Will, so things are getting a little bit easier. You're just talking about Lucy Hall there, and just to mention her, she is the fiancée of Mark Buckingham, who of course raced in the men's race, and it looks to me like he's given her she's from second place, or she's leading now, just as we.
All right, well, we had Annie there back there for a second, but at the moment, well, it's a lonely old time for Ilaria Zane, who is can't see anyone in front of her, anyone behind her, or anyone anywhere. She's 4 minutes and 42 seconds back, still pushing over 3 watts a kilo, just trying to see this one out, Ilaria Zane, but not a very fun time for her or Vanessa Della Torre, who's 7 minutes back. Beatrice Neres is in a group of 4 with Megan Brown, Dominika Jamnicki and Rad Carlevel. They're about 2 minutes and 10 seconds back. You can see there at the bottom of the top 10. Helen Jenkins is all on her own, 1:43 back. Jennifer Arnold is now, well, on our timing screens, she's 5 seconds back. We'll see that update in just a second here, 5.8. Just trailing this group of 6 who haven't been separated whatsoever. And very soon they're going to get to the second run up the Yorkshire Queen of the Mountain. And that will really test everyone, see who's burnt too many of their matches in the first 20 kilometres of this race to stay in, see who's still got a little bit left to go. And it is really anyone's race at this point. Lucy Charles-Barclay's taken the maximum 10, but these athletes, the quality of them and the experience in this field of 6 won't be wanting that to happen again as they head downhill. Only 1 or now 2 athletes in the super tuck position, saving up a little bit of energy, getting ready for this one. Now a few of them are joined in the super tuck, so as I said, anytime it's more than a 3% gradient downhill. And there is the red line marking the 1.2 kilometre Queen of the Mountain section. And Luisa Baptista, with someone extremely muscly looking on next to her as they head up this 1.2 kilometre stretch. And can anyone beat Lucy Charles-Barclay in this one? And if they can, Annie, who's it going to be?
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting. Well, just having a little look what's going on here. I think that Kingma's going to have a bit of a dig. Pallant, they've all got to have a go now because, of course, we've seen Lucy take maximum points so far. So these athletes are going to have to really start working hard if they can together to get the better of Lucy Charles. But we can see her now riding up to the front, putting herself in the right position and the position that she needs to be. And I'm not sure. Oh, no, that's Arnold. Sorry for that. Arnold. Now, where's Arnold come from?
Arnold's back. She's now 19 seconds back. We just flicked back to her. Okay. She's pushing 5 off a kilo and she can't see the pack ahead. So it's always a little more difficult. It's always a little more difficult. Yeah, when you're back there, you can't see the group in front of you. No, she's on the hill. You thought she would have come back a little bit, but hopefully we'll head back to the front pack in just a second, and you can see the numbers on the right-hand side. Lucy Charles once again in front. There is Sophie Coldwell up in the saddle, but there's still only half a second between the top 5 there. Lucy Hall's now 3.9 seconds back, so she's dropped off on this one. You can see there 3.6 on your screens, and we're now in a group of 5, so there should be points going to every one of these athletes, but who is going to take the maximum and who is going to take them from Lucy Charles-Barclay, who is now in front of Sophie Coldwell, with Emma Pallant in the green pushing up Louisa Baptista in the red. Maya Kingma's now a second and a half back, but at the front, Lucy Charles-Barclay pushing 9 watts a kilo is disappearing from this group once again. She's dropped back to 6 watts a kilo, but she's given herself 2 seconds with a little push up there, and it doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to respond.
Oh, it certainly doesn't, Will. It really doesn't. She knows when to make her move. She really does, doesn't she? As we see now, Baptista dropping the watts there, but Lucy Charles pushing nearly 8 watts per kilo. Emma Pallant has dropped behind by 2 seconds. Coldwell now down 4 seconds. Lucy's really pushed that. She wants to take maximum points in this race, that's for sure, Will. Look at her. She's left them all standing. There's nothing they can do.
No, there is nothing they can do. Lucy Charles-Barclay takes every single point from the first 3 intermediates. We'll just get an update on who came in behind her, but it doesn't really matter at this point because Lucy Charles is in control. Now coming up to her is Emma Pallant, and straight past as well, as Lucy Charles just saves herself up a little bit, knowing that this sprint's going to take place in just a few hundred metres time. And we'll see, there you go, Charles-Barclay 5 points, Baptista 4, Pallant 3, Coldwell 2, and Kingma 1. We'll take a little clip now before we head into the sprint. 4.2 kilometres to go. We're about to start the sprint now. Emma Pallant is leading this one, 1.3 seconds ahead of Charles-Barclay. Baptista 1.4. Coldwell has dropped back to 6.4 seconds, and Maya Kingma is now 10 seconds back from Jennifer Arnold, and she's racing alongside Lucy Hall at the moment. But Emma Pallant is in the lead. There she is, and I hope that she knows that her partner is sitting behind her. He's in the rave cave, just watching on. Everyone's got their cheer squads behind them, watching and ready to go as they head up the hill before we get into this sprint once again. But no one can respond to Lucy Charles-Barclay at the moment. A maximum of 15 from 15 points from the 3 intermediates. There she is with the cap on, with the King of the Mountains gloves on. Just an update, Megan Brown is out from Australia. She's got a mechanical, which is probably could be anything. There'll be a drop chain, could have kicked the plug out. This is the wonderful world of Zwift racing. Someone else jumped on the Wi-Fi. These are all things that can happen. But just to update you overall, Emma Pallant from Lucy Charles-Barclay, Louisa Baptista, Lucy Hall, Maya Kingma, Sophie Coldwell, then 40 seconds back to Jennifer Arnold, Helen Jenkins 2.5 minutes back, Radka Karlefeld, Dominica Jam, Nikki Beatrice Neres, Megan Brown, who's out, Ilaria Zane, Vanessa Della Torre. And just a reminder, there are no power-ups in this one. If you're wondering where the power-ups are, we like the pure racing at Super League Traithlon, so we've just kept with that, and all the bikes are exactly the same as they head into the sprint. And who's at the front, Annie? Once again, it's Lucy Charles-Barclay who's taken the advantage early on, and Emma Pallant doesn't look like she's going to be able to go with her. In fact, she drops off, and Lucy Charles just goes straight up into the orange numbers again, and is going to sweep all 20 points from the intermediates.
Wow, that is impressive racing. It really is, isn't it? I mean, I'm impressed with Emma Pallant. I'm really impressed with the young Brazilian Baptista, but really none of them have anything to answer to Lucy Charles, because when she wants to go, it's like she ups and goes, and there's nothing they can do. Emma Pallant now seems to have recovered well from that sprint, though, but she couldn't answer Lucy Charles when she decided to go.
Well, there are the sprint points. The last intermediate is done, and only now is double points in 2.4 kilometres time, and it looks like it's going to come down to Emma Pallant and Lucy Charles-Barclay at the front, because now Baptista's nearly 5 seconds back. But look at those points. Lucy Charles-Barclay has this in the bag because she's going to get at least 8. You would have thought Emma Pallant 13, Baptista 12, Coldwell 5, and Lucy Hall 5. There is money available all the way down to 8th position, $1,200 for the winner, $800, $600, and we go down to $100 for 8th place. But that $1,200 looks like it's going straight to the pocket of Lucy Charles-Barclay, the 26-year-old from the UK. It's going to be UK 1-2. Baptista is now well ahead of Kingma and Hall and Coldwell, who are now in a chasing pack and looking for the 4th through 6th placings. But when you're dropping Sophie Coldwell of the quality of athlete she is, that just shows you just how good a race Baptista, Charles-Barclay and Pallant are having.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you know, she's a class act on Zwift, Sophie Coldwell. We've seen her mix it, you know, with the pro cyclist and come out, you know, really well. Top 6, I think, as she got in the Watopia Classic. A really strong athlete. I think Sophie slightly struggled over the last few weeks with training. It's been difficult for these athletes with nothing to play for. But I know she was up for this race, but it looks to me like, you know, she's below now, 28 seconds down, as is Maya Kingma. And the top 3, Emma Pallant, Lucy Charles, Baptista, the young Brazilian, you know, a fine performance from her, Will, really. The Pan American Games gold medalist. She's ranked 17th in the Super League Triathlon series and really stamping her mark in this race today.
So good to get the access into the pain caves of our athletes, because when you look at the avatars, it looks like they're doing it easy, and then you go and see what it's like in real life. And these athletes are putting absolutely everything into this, getting their competitive outlet out in these days of lockdown and really enjoying this racing, as tough as it is. And at the moment, it's Emma Pallant and Lucy Charles-Barclay, the two Brits, just going at it, which is fantastic to watch. Emma Pallant currently based out of South Africa, and Lucy Charles in the UK, and it's the two of them who are going up the last 600 metres. They've turned onto Ripon Road, and this is it at the end of the first of the races of the Super League e-Racing Cycling Series. I don't know what's happened there, but we're now looking at the finishing banner, and soon it's going to be either Lucy Charles or Emma Pallant, and they're both now pushing orange numbers at times. And there is Emma Pallant putting absolutely everything into it. Lucy Charles, though, is a couple of hundreds of seconds ahead. Now Emma Pallant takes the lead, 350 metres to go as they head up the hill, and we're going to go up the hill with them onto Ripon Road. It's Lucy Charles-Barclay ahead of Emma Pallant. The two of them with absolutely daylight behind them. Pallant now gets her nose in front. Pallant's putting up the big numbers now, 6-7 watts a kilo. Can she take this one? Charles-Barclay responds, 120 metres to go now, and Lucy Charles-Barclay's going to have too much in the legs, and she leaves them behind again, 9 watts a kilo after 42 minutes, and Lucy Charles-Barclay takes every single intermediate, and then she takes the 10 points. She has taken every point on offer and has absolutely swept the field here from Emma Pallant. It's a GB 1-2, and there is Emma, and she's put everything into it, but she just couldn't stay with her compatriot. A little shake of the head there as Sophie Coldwell gives everything in the end to try and finish in 4th position ahead of Maya Kingma, and she just managed to do that. They both came in 35 seconds back. There was hundredths of a second in it as they crossed the line, and then Lucy Hall comes in 6th position. A fantastic race from all of those women. But how about Lucy Charles-Barclay taking maximum points? Annie Emerson, how about that?
Oh, perfect racing, wasn't it? I mean, she just timed it all to perfection. For a minute there, I thought Emma Pallant might have saved something for the finish line, because with 100 metres to go, she really looked like she had it. But Lucy Charles-Barclay just too good for the rest of the field today.
Look at the big ones being sucked in there by Emma Pallant. And there is the points in the end. A maximum 30 from 30 for Lucy Charles-Barclay. Emma Pallant, 21 points from Louisa Baptista, who had a fantastic race. Sophie Coldwell back on 9. Maya Kingma, Lucy Hall, Megan Brown is the first of our athletes to not score. From Matt Carlefelt, Jennifer Arnold, who had a very brave race. We barely saw her. She was all by herself. And Helen Jenkins And what a race that was, and what a setup for the next race, which we'll pick up later on. Make sure you check Super League Triathlon's website, superleaguetraithlon.com, and all of our Instagram channels for all the information on that. We've got a men's race coming up as well on Thursday night, British summertime. And of course, Annie, you're about to jump on Instagram Live too, aren't you?
I am indeed. I'm going to work this out. I'm going to do it. It's really exciting. We're going to be chatting, hopefully, with Lucy Charles, Emma Pallant, Luisa Baptista, the top three, if we can get hold of them. Hopefully, they're going to hop on Instagram Live. So pop over there now, and hopefully, we can hear what the top three athletes of that first ever eSports Super League Triathlon women's race.
What a fantastic race that was. So good to get the access into the pain caves of our athletes, get a little bit of racing on as well, and enjoy a little bit of that competitive spirit with our Super League athletes and some fantastic special guests too. Annie, thank you so much. Go to the Super League Triathlon Instagram Live where you can see Annie try and work out how to speak with our top three athletes. Good luck with that.
Thank you, Will. Have a good one. Get some sleep now.
All right. Okay. I can go back to bed. It's 5 a.m. I've woken up everyone in the entire suburb here in Sydney. I very much enjoyed that one. We hope you did too. Don't forget there's men's racing coming up, which will be Friday morning for me. It'll be Thursday night, British summertime. Lucy Charles-Barclay absolutely dominating this one. And just one more quick recap of the points. Emma Pallant made it to Team GB 1-2 from Luisa Baptista, Sophie Coldwell. Maya Kingma of the Netherlands, Lucy Hall, a very brave 6. She held on as long as she could. Megan Brown had a mechanical, so she missed out up there on the Gold Coast in Australia. Bradka Karlefeld in Australia on the Gold Coast as well. Tough for them getting up early. Jennifer Arnold and Helen Jenkins. Now head on over to the Super League Triathlon Instagram account. We'll be talking with our winners and losers, and I will be signing off and seeing you all for race 2 in the men's coming up Thursday, 7 p.m. British summertime.